I'm a big fan of the way he plays the game. I think he plays at really high level at a technical level. I think he's very physical. He clearly has dog in him. All of the things that you just want to see from a person playing the position, I really like. Welcome into the draft profile for Elic Ayomanor, wide receiver out of Stanford, the 2026 Heisman winner in my college football franchise mode when I played for Stanford. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here, guys. Potential Heisman winner if he would have gone back to school. A really interesting player, 210 pounds from Alberta, Canada. Oh, Canada. He's a redshirt sophomore after missing the 2022 season with a knee injury. He put together 2 really good seasons for Stanford, and after putting together 831 yards on 63 receptions and 6 touchdowns in the 2024 season, he decides to forego the rest of his college career and enter the NFL draft in a class that I think it worked out for him really well. I mean, obviously, it seems like wide receiver class is pretty much good every year, but this is one of those years where it's like not as great. I mean, there's definitely some names, I think, at the top end of the class that are really exciting and teams are going to like, but then you get into that, day 2 guys, and I think that's where I'm kind of thinking about Elic Ayomanor. I've heard some first-round hype, but really, I don't think he's going to go in the first round. I could be just totally wrong about that. Maybe he blows everybody out of the water on the combine, and he could definitely raise his draft stock. As of me recording this, I'm recording this about 2 weeks before the NFL combine, so we'll see what happens with that. Hey, let's go ahead and get right into it. So first of all, we'll start with the positives. This dude has a mastery of some of the nuances of the position, I feel like. I thought he was a really high level route runner. He had multiple releases off the line of scrimmage. Did a really good job of layering his speeds to achieve separation on short and intermediate routes especially. Now look, I will say his route tree not super extensive. And when we look at this grade, I know that the grade for route tree is better than what it actually is, but I took some liberties there. This grade ultimately is a projection to the NFL. So sometimes in certain spots, I look at a player and I say, no, I think you're going to be a great route runner in the NFL. I think your route tree is not going to be limited at all in the NFL. I don't think it's going to take long for him to kind of come up to speed for everything he's going to be asked to do wherever he goes. I don't think it matters. So I gave him a better grade than what he actually did in college. In college, it was kind of limited as far as, slant, sluggo, obviously go route, stick route, out route. Like that was kind of it. That's not a negative by him. That was just what he was asked to do, and he did it at a really high level. As a whole, he plays the position really well, right? So just to kind of spread that umbrella out a little bit, blocking. Great blocker as a wide receiver, right? Like really physical, does a really good job of that. You don't always see that at the college level, especially for your wide receiver 1 on a team that isn't super great. You don't see a guy just putting in the effort in everything, right? His body control, his contact balance, both really good grades for me, right? 7.3 body control is an elite grade. I believe that's my highest grade I gave him because I thought he did such a good job at every single level of being exactly where he needed to be, controlling everything he could control. And, if it's a catch in traffic, he did a really good job with it. If it's an acrobatic catch over somebody's head, he does a really good job with it. All of those things I was kind of blown away by. So I gave him an elite grade. I very rarely give body control an elite grade to wide receivers, but I did for Ayomanor, and I think he absolutely deserves it, right? Contact balance, same kind of thing. Like those kind of go hand in hand for sure. But he never was going to get bullied off the line. Like this dude has plenty of size around him. He's clearly strong, rocked up wide receiver. He looks the part, and I think he plays the game at a really high level, right? So those are 2 really important things, and I think that's what's going to make him a day 2 pick. Ultimately, that's about where I see him. I think these are kind of the cornerstones of what makes him a very exciting player for NFL teams. Now, with that said, there are obviously some negatives on this skill chart as well. Hands is one of his lowest grades at a 3.9. I think he has a little bit of the Chris Chambers syndrome. And a lot of people watching this probably have no idea who Chris Chambers was, but as a dude who grew up a Dolphins fan, watching that shitty fucking Dolphins team for years in the early to mid 2000s, Chris Chambers would always catch the crazy, insane, like his highlight reel is up there with some of the all-time greats. His ridiculous catches down the field, and we didn't have great quarterbacks, so it wasn't always great ball placement down the field. Dude caught every circus catch that was ever an opportunity for him to catch. And then he just dropped a wide open slant. Or if he blew by somebody down the field and it was dropped right in the bucket, like he dropped all the balls that I could catch, and he made all the catches that I could never catch in a million years. It was wild. I think he has a little bit of that in him. So with 6 drops on the year, 8.7 drop rate, yeah, just not the best. It's an issue for me. I like my receivers to catch the ball. Just call me crazy, but that's just what I like. And I think some people could definitely argue that grade is maybe a little lower than it ultimately would be fair, but hey, this is my grade. Let me know in the comments what you would have given him, but on my scale, I do think that's below average, and I'm not impressed with it. On the other end of that exact same scale, he had 14 contested catches for a 48.3% contested catch rate in college last year, and it seemed like every time he had an opportunity to catch a ball over a dude or between two guys, or as he was about to get absolutely destroyed in the middle of the field or something, he'd catch it. But anyway, let's move on to probably my biggest critique about the player as a whole, and that is just his straight line explosiveness and speed, right? That's going to be a big question mark. I'm, like I said, recording this before the combine, and this is a guy who, if he tests well, like if he tests better than I expect, obviously based on my grades, then he could sneak his way into the first round. He really could, because everything else about his game is really, really impressive and something that I think a lot of teams are going to love. Like, dude, you clearly is just a dog workhorse type guy. Like, he has the right mentality based on everything that I've seen on film and everything I've heard about him. He seems like a guy who just has it. Like, he gets it. So definitely not a dude I would bet against no matter what. But at the end of the day, I always get a little scared of guys that just don't separate just using speed at the college level, right? Especially, a guy, he played in the ACC this year, obviously was a Pac-12 guy in the 2023 season at Stanford. He didn't play elite corners every single week, right? He did play Travis Hunter, and he had a good game against Travis Hunter, but at the end of the day, I need to see you blow by the guy that plays at Syracuse or wherever, whatever mid-tier ACC cornerback you're facing of the week. If you're a first-round pick in the NFL, yeah, I need you to create separation, not by route running, not by the sluggo, which he's excellent at, not by, making a guy, getting a guy a little bit off balance on the line and just, winning that way. No, I need to see you kind of just create space down the route, and I didn't see that enough. I didn't. So call that what it is. Separation is obviously his worst grade for me at a 3.2 because I gave him credit for creating separation through route running, through all of these other ways. But for me, the way I grade separation, it's just, did you separate when it was man v man and who's faster, right? And I just never saw that. And you'll see a ton of acrobatic plays where, yeah, he catches the ball over a guy. You'll see a ton of back shoulder throws where he does a really good job of contorting his body and yeah, he's really good at this. We've talked about that. I'm giving him credit for all those things. But at the end of the day, I do have questions about his just pure explosiveness. So that is definitely my biggest concern about the player. These concerns can be wiped away with a combine to the point where I am fully expecting if he blows the combine out of the water, I'll re-record this video. I will. I'll re-record this video. If you're watching this in March, in April, or after the draft, and this is what you're watching, then he didn't. And my take is at least close enough to where I feel good about it. Maybe I'll leave a comment down below and adjust what I'm saying, because I do feel like I'm being harsh, and I want to be clear. He's, at least for my grade, he's an average athlete. He's a, I think, late second, third round guy for me. Like I'm not saying he's a scrub in the NFL. I'm just saying, I'm comparing him to, can you get into that first round conversation? Are you projected to be wide receiver 1, or is a team drafting you with the hopes that maybe you can develop into wide receiver 1? All right, guys. So as we wrap up this video breaking down Ayomanor, I do want to say this is not a guy I would bet against, right? I'm a big fan of the way he plays the game. I think he plays at really high level, at a technical level. I think he's very physical. He clearly has dog in him. All of the things that you just want to see from a person playing the position, I really like, all right? I have questions about the top end explosiveness and athleticism. I do. And some of those questions can be answered in the combine. Some of them can't. Some of them is just, yeah, I need to see you line up against an NFL wide receiver an NFL corner and win. If you do, then yeah, I think everything else points to the fact that you're going to be a really great NFL wide receiver. As I was kind of going through and breaking it all down, and I was kind of coming up with my comps, I really think I see. And maybe this isn't a perfect like body type physicality comp, but just from like a mentality thing and the way I think he plays the position, Amon-Ra St. Brown, what was he, late third, early fourth? There's obviously, every time they do a primetime game, they talk about how he has a list of every wide receiver that went ahead of him and all these other things. The reason he was in that range of the draft was the athletic profile, right? It was just the pure athleticism. I think this could be the same kind of conversation for Ayomanor. Now, on the other end of it, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was a guy that I missed on. Drafted the Eagles second round, big guy out of Stanford, loved his contested catch, loved how he was always catching balls over a guy and, just physical dude. And, yeah, I kind of missed the fact that, oh, yeah, he never separated down the field in the Pac-12. It was the Pac-12 then. Oh, yeah, he never really created separation. He just was bigger than these guys in college. And then the NFL, yeah, that skill has to be so freaking good for it to work out, right? So that was a miss. The Eagles obviously didn't hit on him, and he's kind of washed out of the NFL pretty quickly. I think I'm not projecting that. I'm way more on the end of Amon-Ra than I am on Arcega-Whiteside. I just do think there is a percentage chance that this dude just doesn't have the physicals. And again, I mentioned the possibility that I would delete this video if he just blows the combine out of the water. There is also the chance that his stock plummets if he doesn't run right, if he doesn't have good enough athletic scores, right? That's going to be a big part of his game. Either way, I do think he's going to get drafted by a team that loves the mentality, that loves the physicality. I think, a team that is person over, player, I think is going to be the type of team that takes a shot on him. And look, there's something to be said about the teams that build their roster through their culture, right? And I think he's going to fit into some really great cultures in the NFL. I think teams that do that are going to target a guy like this, right? So if he ends up in the right spot, if he ends up in a Lions-esque type spot, if he goes to the Patriots, which makes a lot of sense, they need wide receiver in one of the later rounds, I think like those spots just fit, and I would love it, and I'm rooting for this guy wherever he goes, but I hope he goes to a really good culture spot. I mentioned the Patriots just because I'm a big fan of Vrabel's, and I think they're going to build a really good culture there. Ultimately, wherever this dude goes, I wouldn't bet against him by any means. I think he is probably third-round guy. That's my ultimate projections. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe. All that stuff really does help. Obviously, very small channel. Trying to grow it, trying to make something happen here, and any help that you guys have for me, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.